Hi everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of our Live Well podcast. In today's episode, we're going to be addressing some misconceptions and some misinformation that there are out there in terms of nutrition. And to do this, we have with us Miss Cherice Bronte-Tinkew. So hi Cherice, and welcome to today's episode.
Hi Josanne, and well, thanks for having me. So my name is Cherice Bronte-Tinkew. I'm a registered dietitian. I've been in this field for 9 years.
Wow.
So I'm fully aware, being in the public and the private sector, that there are a lot of misconceptions out there. And my job basically is to, make sense, bring the facts, and try my best to apply it to someone's lifestyle in order for them to have the best outcome.
I like that she said bring the facts, and everyone, that is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be bringing the facts straight to you. So firstly, let's talk about carbohydrates. I feel like that you see a lot of information on social media in terms of, is carbohydrate good for you? Is it bad for you? You should stay away from it if you're trying to lose weight. Should we be staying away from carbohydrates when we're trying to lose weight or we're eating, and I'm going to use air quotes for this, healthy?
So carbohydrates, I've heard everything. It's bad, avoid it totally, but it's such a negative word. Carbohydrates is actually a nutrient.
Correct.
We need it on a regular basis. Right now I'm using a lot of brain power, so I need carbohydrates to give me that brain power.
Exactly, and I think a lot of persons may not know there are different types of carbohydrates. We have our simple carbohydrates versus complex carbohydrates. So I think we all classify both of them as just being bad. And in contrary, everything has its place. Whether it's the roti with white flour, white rice, versus your more complex carbohydrates, which would be things like your brown rice and provisions and those things, they all can fit into a healthy eating pattern.
And I like that you defined the two types. The complex carbohydrates, we tend to push it a lot because these complex carbohydrates are ones that decrease the non-communicable diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, cancer. So those are actually pretty good. They're even great for, reducing your weight or even managing your weight a lot better. The simple carbohydrates, they tend to digest a lot quicker into our bloodstream. So we need it at certain times. So you might say an athlete who is going out to do a performance, they are going to need it because they need that quick energy. So it works in a lot of different settings. So I won't necessarily say all carbohydrates are bad. It depends on what you are doing, and it depends on the quantity.
Correct.
So you can have a bit of both, but let's say if it is that you're battling like a medical condition like diabetes, I'd want to focus a lot more on complex carbohydrates. So those will be like your whole wheat, your whole grain products, your ground provisions. Those are things that I would push a lot more for persons with, type 2 diabetes.
I like that you mentioned managing a condition. So for the average person, would you say that sometimes, the more simple carbohydrates could fit into their eating? Yes, right?
So let's talk about maybe the holidays.
Yes.
Because, that's coming up, Christmas, Carnival. And we may have, those foods that are, more culture-based. So maybe if you have a wide spread, like you have your festive rice, you have your potato salad, you have your macaroni pie, you may not want to have all of those different choices because they are simple carbohydrates.
Right.
So how do you enjoy it? Maybe just using one per meal, because we need 3 meals in a day. So why not, divide it up among your meals? So you can enjoy small amounts.
And how do you feel about, for Sunday lunch, your mom cook a nice macaroni pie, as you said, there's the rice, there's the potato salad. realistically, for most persons, you just want everything on your plate. How would you then help someone navigate with that while still, getting that satisfaction of having a taste of everything?
So this is where you'd have to demonstrate self-control. So what I was mentioning earlier, where it is you could divide it up into the different meals. So you may want to probably taste the macaroni pie now, or if you want to have the macaroni pie and the rice, maybe just do a smaller portion. Maybe try to, find within yourself to find out when you're going to feel full and you stop. So that's what I call it, self-control.
I like that, and definitely I try to practice that, because there is no way I am leaving, the potato salad and stuff there. But as you said, I practice putting smaller portions of it if you really want the satisfaction on the same plate. And sometimes you're right. You eat something for lunch today and you might leave the other one that you really want for lunch tomorrow. So I like that, and I think something that's also important to mention here is that when you go out to buy food, sometimes you don't necessarily see brown rice all the time on the menu, or you may not have provisions. It might actually just be the white rice or, regular white bread. In that instance, would you say just don't buy the food or don't eat the food, or can that also have a place overall in your life?
So, the carbohydrates there, they would fit into the staples food group. So if there is, let's say, legumes, which is your peas or beans available, or even let's go with the vegetables too, you can have those choices along with the rice, so you can increase your fiber intake, and therefore that's a complex carbohydrate you're getting there. So yeah, it could work out.
I like that because sometimes it's not feasible to be eating the complex carbohydrates every single day. So I think it's important, to have some balance if you can. Balance, if you're buying food and you're eating more of the white products, and then when you can control it, have some of the brown rice, the provision, the whole grain. So I believe that's really important. Balance is key, and it's not always just black and white. You have to do this all the time. Everyone's circumstances may be different. So I like that you mentioned those points. So that takes us now to another very common misconception, and that is all calories are the same. Once I hit my 1500 is kind of low, but once I hit, let's say, 1800 or 2000 calories for the day, that's all that matters. Is that correct, Cherice?
So all calories are equal. Well, no. So if you look at the definition of a calorie is a measurement of energy.
Right.
So you're going to get a certain amount of energy when you eat a different type of food group. But what if I tell you, just go and eat 500 calories? You can eat 500 calories of anything. You can eat 500 calories of butter. You can eat 500 calories of tulum or kurma. Yeah? But is that going to be necessarily the best way of, managing your calories per day? No. So we're talking about quantity, but we're also talking about quality. So calories, they're going to be different for different nutrients. And the basic nutrients that persons would know would be like the carbohydrates, protein, fats. So there are different amounts for a different person. So it's very subjective. So you wouldn't want to just say that I'm eating 500 calories, but then it's just only coming from fats. You wouldn't want to have just from sugar. So the nutrients, they give our bodies different ways of managing. So we have very subjective thoughts when it comes to calories and the nutrients that persons need individually.
I like that you mentioned quality over quantity. Because as you said, it's simple. You can eat 500 calories from, let's say, a bag of chips, but what nutrients are you really getting there, as opposed to, let's say, 500 calories of a salad or a meal that has a lot of fruits and vegetables, or even a snack that's high protein? It's different. You get the same amount of calories per se, but the quality of those calories are very different.
Very different.
So then would you say that persons who have that mindset of once I hit my caloric goal for the day, that's the most important thing?
That's just like probably one drop in the water that you're achieving. You know, you still have to look at the different nutrients, what is best for your body, and especially it has to be around your age, your activity level, you know, and that's where, you know, we would come in like a registered dietitian.
Yes.
They can help someone to figure out how much they actually need for the different nutrients.
I like that. And I think sometimes as a society, we tend to become so hyper-focused on just calories in terms of like losing weight, that we forget that, you know, our bodies do a lot of different things other than just look a certain way. They have to function each day, and they don't just do that based on the amount of calories that you put in. You need all the other nutrients as well. You mentioned carbohydrates, protein, fat, but there are also things like vitamins and minerals as well that you may not get if you're just like loading up on just, I want to say, empty calories where, you know,
Correct.
it's not high quality. So what you want to do is focus on more nutrient dense foods versus empty calories that you get from things like just chips and high sugar snacks and those sorts of things, right?
Yes, yes.
So
Correct.
would we say all calories are equal?
Definitely not.
And then another one that I think we hear quite often, and especially at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of any sort of big occasion or celebration, for example carnival, is that you need to detox. Did you detox yet, Cherice? Did you do your juice cleanse for the year?
I think my body's detoxing right now.
Are you sure? Because I think there's so much different ways to do the detox. There's so many different juice cleanses that people go on. Is this something that you would advise people to do?
So when I hear the word detox, it always makes me think of juices. So everyone is always trying to come up with a new combination. It'll either be juice of cucumber with a ginger.
Or the celery. I've seen celery a lot.
Celery. I hope persons know that we have local celery and we have foreign celery. So it's quite different when we take a lot of things from online and we just, you know, just follow it just like that without even putting some more thought into it to find out how is it going to fit into my diet. So I have nothing against like a nice juice. It's very refreshing.
Agreed.
You know, if you mix a lovely combination of, let's say, pineapple and cucumber, that's very refreshing. Now, it is very low in calories. So what we would consider a low calorie item would be more like a healthy snack. So you can fit a beverage, of course, into your diet, but your diet is going to be more than that. Like we were talking about earlier with the different nutrients, you know, it's going to be very subjective. So nothing is wrong with doing a juice, but when it comes to replacing it, using it as a meal replacement, and probably doing it maybe 3 times a day. And
some persons do it 7 days, 2 weeks, extended periods of time.
It goes on. What happens after that? Is it that your body now is at this new level? No, your body is actually going to be battling you to get back to previously before you started the detox. Or, you know, the detox.
Yeah, exactly. And I think an important point here is that we have organs, right? That naturally.
We have the kidneys, we have the lungs, we have the liver. Treat your body right with the right amount of different nutrients and it is going to function. It's going to detox.
It's going to remove the toxins on its own.
Yes.
I like that you mentioned though that juices do have they could have a place in our regular eating. For example, for me personally, certain vegetables that I don't like to eat or fruits, I would juice them. So example, I really don't like to eat beetroot, but I know it has so many health benefits for us. So I would actually juice it with other vegetables, probably like kale or whatever's available for me. And for breakfast, I would have like either a quarter cup or a half cup with my breakfast. So it's not that I'm using juice now to replace a meal, but it's now becoming part of my meal. And I believe also with juice, I think, portion control is very important.
Yes.
Sometimes we overdo it.
We kind of overdo it. And I like how you told me that it's a part of the meal. So that's the most important thing. Fruits and vegetables can be a part of a meal. It cannot replace an entire meal, but it can work into your diet.
So would we say that we need to detox at least once or twice for the year?
Not the crazy detox out there, but just eat your fruits and vegetables, people.
Agreed, please. No need to do that at all. And another one that I find, you hear a lot would be, are you trying to lose weight? You need to cut out all fats from your diet. How do you feel about that?
So we're back again discussing different nutrients, and I really don't like the word like avoid and,
yes.
Bad. It's like everything can fit into one's diet. So fat is an essential nutrient. We actually need fats to function on a daily basis. I don't know if persons know that we need fats to make hormones. We need it to help absorb certain vitamins. We need it for insulation. It actually protects our organs.
Exactly.
Yeah?
I think sometimes we forget all those important things that fat does for our bodies, and we just look at what we see in the mirror and what's just under the skin. So I like that you mentioned, fat has an important role in our daily lives. So should we avoid it?
So no, you don't have to avoid fats. We come back to the thought of quality again, and I'll also mention quantity. So with the quality of fats, you really want to concentrate on the healthier types. So you have ones that are unsaturated, and they actually do a better job of protecting us from heart disease. So some of those are like your avocado, your olive oil, the different types of nuts and seeds like flaxseed. We also have healthy fats in oily fish like sardines. We do have the not so good ones, which are like the saturated fats, and we need very, very small amounts of those. So those would be like your hard fats, we call them.
Butter.
So butter, cheese, cream, lard, all the nice tasty stuff. Yeah. But you can definitely still have fats, but in small amounts. So look at my thumb. My thumb, or like a teaspoon size.
Yes.
The top of my thumb, I should say. Teaspoon size, that's like a serving of fat actually. And fat is actually a higher calorie compared to the others. So you actually need smaller amounts. That's just one serving. Depending on the person, some persons could go up to maybe like 6 or 7 servings, just for an example. So when you look at that, that's a very small amount you actually need. And it's doing its job totally fine.
I like that you mentioned quantity, because I think what tends to happen, we have this conception that when we avoid fats, we need to avoid all the good ones as well. But ones that we should actually be limiting would be like all the fried foods that we tend to have in the Caribbean.
Yeah.
We eat a lot of fried foods, whether that's bake, fries, fried chicken. Like over a space of a week, you might find that you ate high fat or fried foods 3-4 times for the week, and I think that's where the issue may come into place. And you mentioned avocado, zabuka. Quantity. Sometimes, for example, my cousin, she sits or sometimes half of the avocado on the plate. So while it's a healthy fat, sometimes we tend to overdo it. So would you say that we should avoid fats?
So the key here is moderation. And yes, the healthy fats, again, with my same thumb, we have to watch the amount that we're doing. So we do need just small amounts, but we focus more on the healthy fats. So avocado is a good fat. When it's in season, enjoy it,
Yes.
but it's one part of a meal. It should not take over the entire meal.
Yes.
That's what I have to say.
Thank you for that. Another one too, I find, well, I know there was like a bit of a debate over the past few years. You would see different articles for and against it, and that is, should we be drinking cow's milk? Like there have been so many different perceptions on this. But is it bad for you? Is it good for you? Do we as adults need it? Do we not need it? What is the end line here? Because I feel like a lot of people tend to be confused on this specific misconception.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, milk is always going to be troublesome because I hear everything. Why do we need milk? What does milk do?
I've heard that too.
So basically, milk is actually a nutrient-dense food. It contains protein, it contains carbohydrates, it contains vitamin B12, it contains potassium and calcium. So it is, I would say it's a powerhouse. So if you're a person that can tolerate it, because there are persons out there who don't tolerate milk as well. So persons, who may have like a severe problem like irritable bowel syndrome, or they might have maybe a milk allergy or just lactose intolerance, So there are going to be ways to work around that. But if you're a person who is wondering, you don't have any of these conditions and you're wondering, should I be drinking milk? Is it good? Well, what I just defined there as a nutrient-dense food, yes, it can work for you, especially if you're a person who is watching maybe a budget. Then you could probably just, have the low-fat milk, you add it to a drink, or if you want to add it to a cereal, or if you're cooking with it, then that's fine.
Or you put in a splash in your coffee. I actually saw a dietitian recently. She did a video on the same topic because it's such a controversial topic right now. And what she was basically saying was that you drink milk, oh no, it's bad for you. So you switch to a plant-based milk. Can't have the plant-based milk, it has too much added sugar to it, so you switch to a diet soft drink. Can't have a diet soft drink, it has too much artificial sweetness, switch to water. Can't drink water because it has all these different, ions or whatever in it. What do we drink? And she's like, you know what, we just cycle back to the milk. So I think the point of that video was that there's always going to be an issue with everything that we're consuming. But it's how it plays a part in your life. And as you mentioned, if you don't have an allergy or you don't have any conditions and you're able to have milk, nothing is wrong with drinking milk. Like, there is no issue at all with drinking it. And if you can't and you have the plant-based milk, that's fine as well.
That's totally fine.
Since we mentioned coffee, now this one I've heard once or twice. Don't drink coffee because it causes dehydration. What do you have to say about that?
So have no fear, coffee drinkers out there. You don't have to limit it.
Because otherwise I will be severely dehydrated, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues would be as well.
Definitely. Yes, it's a diuretic, so it does increase the amount of urine. But there are other ways to tell when you become dehydrated, and simply by looking at your overall fluid intake for the day. And one thing you can do is just increase your water intake. So we should be drinking more water than other beverages in our diet. Water makes up 70% or more of our bodies. So why not, make sure that we're drinking enough water. So if you're a coffee drinker, it may add up to maybe 2 or 3 cups. Yes, you get water when you make your coffee.
Yes.
But for the remainder of the day, ensure that you drink, 7, 8, 10 amounts of water. And you could tell, like, if your skin is not dry or if your urine is not concentrated, then you know that you're well hydrated.
I like that you mentioned that. And I think a lot of people don't know that this was debunked a while now, that you can have 4 to 5 cups of coffee and the diuretic effect, or that effect of, having to use the washroom often, it does not lead to that amount of dehydration where you can say across the board that coffee causes dehydration. And as you rightfully said, that's not your only source of water for the day. In terms of those cups of coffee, you actually have to drink water, and also you can get it from different fruits and vegetables as well that have like a higher water content. So like watermelon, for example, or cucumbers. So it's not just this one cup of coffee is gonna be, your source of hydration for the day. I like that. And just to wrap up, Cherice, what are some takeaways you think that persons should leave with from this episode?
Well, we should truly discover the facts before we apply it to our own lifestyle. And we can have food in moderation.
Yes.
It's okay. Different food sources throughout the day is going to be totally fine. And I would say try not to give foods just a simple label. Try not to make sure that it's not in a negative light. Find out the facts first before you make an adjustment.
I like that you mentioned that. And the first thing you mentioned in terms of if you need advice, seek professional advice, from a registered dietitian or a registered nutritionist. Also, like, there are so many different persons on social media, for example, who are self-proclaimed, nutritionists or influencers who, speak a lot about nutrition. So there's a lot of misinformation for persons to navigate. So I like that you mentioned, it's okay, get help, ask a professional for their guidance as opposed to trying to navigate through all that on your own. And what I would also say is that if you are trying to get advice from social media, for example, try to make sure that the persons that you are following are reputable, look at
if they're registered, and you could always tell because of the way how they would come across. It wouldn't be just like that's an instant statement that they would make. They would bring facts.
Exactly. They may even put in a reference. They would tell you where they got that information from. They would probably put it in like their bio and stuff, their qualifications. So I think it's always good to, look at that, see what their qualifications are, because with so much consumption of social media these days, I feel like we have a lot of unrealistic expectations. You look at something and this person is doing it a certain way, and then you think, hey, I have to adapt to that. So it's difficult sometimes to kind of navigate through that. So again, get professional advice. So thank you once again, Cherice, for being here with us and sharing your expertise. It was a very informative session. And for our listeners out there, thank you for tuning in today, and look out for our next episode next week.